And before we begin, I just want to get you on record here. So Joe Biden was inaugurated president of the United States after an election that was certified by each of the 50 sovereign states of the country, by election officials, Republican and Democrat, many recounts across the country as well, also overseen by those officials, affirmed against charges of fraud by more than 60 courts of law, and the President Trump's own Justice Department, instructed by the Attorney General to look for cases of voter fraud, didn't find any. So, do you accept the results of the 2020 election as legitimate?
What I do not accept is the fact that
That's not the question I asked. I'm sorry. It's a yes or no question. This is the test in the country right now. So just our audience knows who you are, what side you are on. Do you accept the democratic processes as certified by each of the 50 sovereign states, 60 courts of law, and the people of the United States? Do you accept the election as legitimate?
I think every American that looks at the fact that Joe Biden is in office right now, lying to the American people, accepts the fact that Joe Biden is the president. Now, what I think a lot of people are concerned about is the issue of election integrity.
That's not a yes or no. That's neither a yes or a no. Are you dodging whether or not our country's democracy, certified by each of the 50 sovereign states, confirmed by 60 courts of law, and President Trump's own Justice Department, you saying those processes of democracy cannot be relied on? Just yes or no. Is it a legitimate election under our Constitution and laws? Yes or no?
Joe Biden is the president. And I think that is a statement of fact, because that's what he is. But I think it is also...
You cannot affirm our own Constitution and laws working in this election. You cannot do that. Is that because you're scared, or because you don't believe that our democracy actually worked last November?
Well, Terry, let me be very clear. I'm not scared of you. And I will tell you something else.
I'm not asking you to be scared of you. I'm asking you to affirm our Constitution and laws.
I am telling you, and I believe every American can understand, that Joe Biden is our president. And legitimately, by law, by the Constitution and our laws, as certified by each of the 50 sovereign states and confirmed by more than 60 courts, as affirmed, is he a legitimate president as our democracy held? Or do you disagree with that? I believe Joe Biden is our president. And I think that because you want to...
Use the word legitimately.
Terry, Joe Biden is the president of the United States. Kamala Harris is the vice president of the United States. There's no question about that. But there are a lot of questions about the issue of election integrity. And so you may not want to talk about election integrity. You may not want to talk about the fact that Democrats spent the majority of their time lying about a bill in Georgia that actually expanded voting, that cost Georgia black-owned businesses close to $100 million worth of revenue. But the issue of election integrity is an important one. And we want to have more elections that are easy for people to vote, but harder for people to cheat. And so I think it's reasonable for people to show an ID in order to get their ballot, in order to vote. And matter of fact, the majority of black Americans support the notion of showing an ID in order to vote. So we have issues with our elections. There's no doubt about that. So I think you can be an American citizen who can accept the fact that Joe Biden is president, as well as be concerned about the issue of election integrity. And that is exactly where we are.
Thank you. That is a policy issue. But you said that there's reason to be. We know for a fact that there is no voter fraud of any consequence anywhere in the United States because the Republican Party has been looking for it. Republican politicians, legislators, academics, think tanks, a presidential commission, the Department of Justice under President Trump, all have been looking year in, year out, everywhere around the country, high and low, for voter fraud, and they haven't found any of any consequence. So, can you acknowledge that?
I believe that there are issues of voter irregularities that happen, and they've been happening for years. But what we're going to do right now, as the Republican Party, is put the issue of election integrity on the forefront, because we saw a lot of Democrats on the local level pass a lot of laws under emergency measures because of COVID-19 to mandate things so they can control the process. And a lot of the things that were done were done in the cloak of darkness and need to be brought to light. And we're going to ensure that our elections are fair, are honest, and that our votes count, and that Democrats won't get away with lying about laws that are on the books like they did in Georgia. So we can spend some time talking about that, or we can go ahead and keep relitigating on whether or not Joe Biden's the president, which he is. I think the American people have moved on from that. And I can tell you the Republican Party is moving forward. The Republican Party is moving forward. That's why you see the rejection of Democrats in that election down in Texas. And you saw Republicans get a combined 62% of the vote. Democrats are running nearly 11 points behind where they were in 2020. When you go back to the last election cycle, and you saw that for all of the Republicans that won a House seat that was flipped from Democrats, it was won either by a minority, a woman, or a veteran. The Republican Party is focused on winning elections, and Joe Biden, in his presidency as the commander-in-chief, is doing a horrible job as president. Failure of leadership when it comes to the border. He's destroying jobs. He's killing jobs. We're looking at Keystone Pipeline. And he has not acknowledged the border crisis that we have, a humanitarian crisis, a national security crisis, a health crisis, an employment crisis, when you look at the disproportionate impact that it has on Black Americans especially, and the issue of school closures, schools still being closed, and our economy still not being open for business. Joe Biden is not doing a good job as president of the United States. That's why we believe that in 2022, we're going to be victorious.